Welcome back. You're watching Morning Live. Thank you for choosing to stay with us. It is a marvelous and accessible theatrical treasure. It will steal your heart and captivate your mind. I can think of no other way to describe this production than as a little masterpiece. That's Cape Times Peter Tromp describing the Market Theatre's latest production titled Black and Blue, starring Atandwa, Kani and Sylvaine. Now, to tell us more, we're joined in studio this morning by James Cuningham, and he's the director and lead actor. Atandwa Kani is here. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
James, let's start with you. For a lot of people this morning who haven't seen it, might have heard about it for the first time. It's been around for a while, but there are some people that somewhere haven't heard about it. Just give us a brief synopsis of Black and Blue.
Thanks. Yeah, it has been around for its 11th year now. Wow. As a kind of comeback show. It's a very simple story of healing. It's a story of one woman's healing, sort of overcoming grief. But there's a lot of sort of parallels in it because it's so simple. There's a lot of parallels, I think, to our country, and I think it's a story that resonates with a lot of people.
I want to bring Mr. Kani into this conversation, but before we touch base with him, just talk to me about these very strong people. Sylvaine has been, we know that name. Atandwa Kani has been in production. What do these guys bring to this production?
Well, I mean, the only sort of analogy I can imagine is it's a little bit like being a coach of a sports team, and suddenly you've got two world-class stars at your disposal, and you can see them kind of functioning in front of you, and it kind of blows you away. So the process has been amazing to be able to watch two people like Atandwa and Sylvaine work on the floor, and yeah, it's brilliant. It's a great honor.
Mr. Kani, when you take on a production that's been around, that has so much history and resonates with so many people that have seen it, is it an arduous task, or is it something that an actor enjoys because it's another role? Or do you have to bear in mind that this has history? It's not a new production that you can really develop from scratch in many ways.
Well, most of the productions you do as an actor have been done before. I mean, if you're a classical actor, you do Shakespeare. I've just done Caesar Bunce's Dead, which was originally done by Dr. John Kani and Mr. Winston Jonas. So all you're doing is paying homage, as it were, to the people that were the original creators of the piece. But it's also very scary because it is loved by so many people, this production, and it does mean so much to so many people. So you've got to treat it with such respect and approach it very, very cautiously and carefully. But I mean, you know, as actors, we want to do things that are nearly impossible so you can sort of ascend to the next level.
Yeah. Talk to me about you playing that character. And what did you have to bring to this character?
Well, originality, first and foremost, because all I heard was the original actor and what a joy he was to work with and how great of a performance he gave. I
so that already connected.
I said to say, well, then why bring me in?
It's a kind of a warning.
Exactly, you know, it's just setting they just set the standard. I bring everything that I've accumulated along the years. I bring myself, I bring a wide range. I bring just a vivacious and very sort of spontaneous and energetic performance. I also bring a little bit of maturity. I'm not very old, but I've done a lot of productions in my life. And I bring the understanding of that. I bring the understanding of a working environment.
So essentially what you're saying to me is that James had to contain you. That's essentially what you're saying.
Well, I mean, this is Mr. James Cuningham. You know, this is someone that I've adored and loved for many years of my life, even before I went into professional acting. And then Sylvaine. I mean, everybody knows Sylvaine.
Sure. No, I hear you. You talked about a little bit earlier about just some of the similarities on a day-to-day basis. But what is the fundamental message, or is there a fundamental message behind Black and Blue?
I think ultimately it's that it's never too late to heal. And it's never too late to move forward. I think there's so much rupture and wound in our lives generally, not only in this country but around the world. And I think all it takes is that first step in a right direction, which is what Atandwa's character kind of brings to the story. It's just this very gentle kind of beguiling notion of bringing us out from the damage that we've come from.
Is that the reason why it's been around for so long, that it's actually quite topical year on year?
Well,
or deals with topical issues? It
was made 10 years after our democracy. So I think we were dealing with a very new country, and we were dealing with a lot of wounds. I think we still are. And it's going to be interesting to see now, sort of much later, what the sort of resonance is with audiences, whether it remains more of a historic piece, which I don't think it does, and on whether what we're dealing with now, not only in terms of the story, but in terms of where we're at and what we're coming from. people will resonate with that, I think.
Let's talk about that story, because you've got yourself, and as we talked about a little bit earlier, Sylvaine Strike, and you've got to find the balance between such powerful actors and create a story that resonates with every audience. And I've always heard actors say that every audience is different and every energy is different. Talk to me about working with Mrs. Strike.
It's not the first time I've worked with her. She directed me in The Miser.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
And that was such an experience for me, because she just glides, man. When she doesn't walk, she glides, and she's very learned, and she's such a great talent. So working with her, first and foremost, you come with respect, and you come with just love and adoration, and just be humble and giving. And that's all it takes, really, working with anybody, is just to humble yourself and be able to take direction and understand what's going on. You know, I've worked with a lot of people in my life, but every single time you get into a new production, it's the greatest production you've ever done in your life, working with the greatest people. You've got to do that. And every audience, as you say, is different every night, but as long as you stay true to the story, you'll never veer off and sort of lose yourself in anything.
That's actually interesting, because the truth of the story is that this is a production that's got serious legs. 11 years is nothing to scoff at. Can you tell the story that was written 10 years ago, or do you have to create little nuances in that pre-production before it goes on stage to make it relevant? Or do you say this story originally 10 years ago was written like this, and I'm going to find actors that can tell that story? Or do I find actors that's kind of the new voice of it? Or what is that process?
That's an amazing question, and it's something that we've been sort of confronted with recently. I think that we're not rewriting the play. The play was written, and it works, and it's a story about two people rather than the story of a country. Yeah. But at the same time, Atandwa and Sylvaine is not the same person she was 11 years ago, and Atandwa is not the same actor. So there's a real freshness and a real depth, I think, that Atandwa has brought to this character. It's not a new play, but it feels like a new experience watching it.
You know, I'm always interested in reactions from the crowd, but I'm more interested in reactions from a crowd or an audience member that have seen this same production a couple of years ago and has decided to come back. Have you had an opportunity to speak to one of those people?
I have. There are people who saw it 11 years ago, and then they saw it recently. We took it to Grahamstown, was it last year? And they've seen both productions. And the one thing that always comes to the fore is their love for the story, their love for the two characters, the love for the message in the story. Also, the love for the current crew that's taking it forward. It's the current actors and directors are taking it forward. And yeah, I mean, there's always going to be comparisons, but you know, I've had that my whole life, so that's
okay.
That's not
so
really
something
a problem.
that you used to. Okay, that's Atandwa, Kani, and director James Cuningham talking to us about Black and Blue. It's been around for 11 years. It's part of our production staple, that diet. Go and find out more about it. Tickets are available. Everybody should go and watch this. Grab your friends, grab your neighbors, even the ones you're not talking to, and maybe this can breach that gap between the two of you. It's on from the 30th of September and runs until the 1st of November. Google it. It's at the Market Theatre. Ticket price out there. We take an ad break. You don't go anywhere.